I feel the need for speed is of course a line from a famous movie, Top Gun. You remember it. And I'm sure that choosing that title for my talk this afternoon has led to the natural and indeed inevitable comparisons between myself and Tom Cruise. More seriously, why am I talking about the need for speed? After all, in many ways, we're way behind the predicted level of demand when the ATM master plan was first created. Indeed, the growth curve has moved to the right by about 4 years. Well, there are many reasons for speed. The first is that there wasn't exactly much slack built into the original programme. Indeed, many felt that the targets which you had described by Matthew a minute ago were verging on impossible to achieve. So the dip in demand hasn't given us a breathing space. Rather, it's made the required rate of progress that little bit more achievable. A second reason is that growth is clearly starting again. Even after the volcanic ash, even after the snow, the number of flights in Europe grew by just under 1%, 0.8% last year. The most likely scenario in the latest EUROCONTROL forecast, long-term forecast, gives us 16.9 million flights in Europe in 2030. So if you like, an increase of 80% over the number of flights we had in 2009. Looking at it another way, we're still forecasting annual average growth of almost 3%. So what does it mean when I call for speed? It's not another call for quick wins, although I certainly don't want to disparage the many efforts being made by experts working on a huge range of projects and doing so very hard. There's a lot of excellent progress and many very tangible outputs, some of which go largely unsung because their importance isn't always immediately evident. And if I may, can I just pick out one example in an area that we at EUROCONTROL are heavily involved in, and indeed have been for several years, even before the creation of the SJU. It's the ATM Information Reference Model, or AIRM. This is a model that provides the framework for exchanging information across the network. The first version has already been released, second version is coming later this month. And this will be at the core of SWIM, System-Wide Information Management. It's part of the foundation of the SESAR operational concept. This project is an excellent example of the long-term nature of SESAR. Not everything will have an instant impact on ATM operations, but it's still absolutely essential work, and it will drive tangible changes in the years to come. We need to make sure that the new global standards being developed are compatible with the needs of Europe. To do that, we need to be sure that our own thinking is developed. To do that, we in Europe need to play a leading role. We need to improve, we need to deliver on deployment. We need to make sure that the improvements coming out of developments are actually put into practice and start to yield benefits. And that means two things. We need to get the coordination right, and there needs to be investment. Now, this doesn't mean some move to a Soviet-style central command approach to SESAR deployment. I think you can identify 3 levels of deployment, relatively few of which would be at the central network systems level. Rather more will be regional systems, ones that need to be synchronized and integrated with the network. Typically, that's the sort of thing that involves aircraft equipage, for example, a data link. The third level, local systems, includes many airport-based systems, things like CDM, rather more discretionary, but there has to be interoperability even at that level. So it's clearly coordination that we need, and that should involve a range of parties, not just the ANSPs or the functional airspace blocks and the airspace users, but also others, including airports, regulators, the military, and the network manager now sitting in EUROCONTROL. Also looking at investment, how it can be stimulated, because there is going to be a real need for investment over the coming decade, both on the ground and in the air. Now, at this time of economic hardship, that's not always a popular thing to be saying, but it does need to be said, and we need to say it loudly. Of course, that investment will have to show positive business cases. That's difficult enough at the level of the network. It can be really, really challenging when you disaggregate and get down to local projects. So we need to start communicating this message now, that investment will be necessary, not just to meet the targets in the new performance regime, not just to comply with the implementing rules and the new standards, but principally because we have to build an ATM system in Europe that will meet the forecast demand and do it safely, efficiently, and in an environmentally responsible way. So, to seriously misuse another Tom Cruise quote, show me the money. Thanks very much.